And welcome everyone to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Headlines we're tracking for you at this hour. Record grain output, rising rural incomes, and steady investment mark a strong first half for China's agriculture and rural economy. New U.S. tariffs targeting 60 trading partners go into effect starting today as the Trump administration cites alleged forced labor practices. And airports here in Beijing roll out a fully digital tax refund system to speed up shopping reimbursements for overseas visitors. Right, let's take a quick look at the Chinese mainland markets where equities finished the week lower. The Shanghai Composite for the day shed 1.6%, while the Shenzhen component tumbled nearly 2.5% on the day. We're going to have more on the Chinese mainland markets later in the program. First, a look at how regional markets performed and how Wall Street closed out overnight. Well, first up, China's agricultural investment and rural consumption grew steadily in the first half of this year as rural demand continues to be unleashed. That's according to China's Vice Minister of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, Mr. Zhang Xinwang, saying at a press conference just moments ago. Now, in the first half, fixed asset investment in the primary industry reached 460 billion yuan. That's up 0.9% year on year. Rural retail sales of consumer goods totaled 3.32 trillion yuan, rising 2.5% year on year, and that would also be 1.3 percentage points higher than the urban growth rate. Meanwhile, China has cumulatively developed over 66.7 million hectares of high-standard farmland, providing strong support for grain output. The country also steadily advanced its seed industry invigoration initiative, with domestically bred crop varieties now covering 95% of the total planting area. Well, China's 2026 summer grain harvest topped 150 million metric tons for the first time, reaching 150.75 million tons and up 0.7% year on year. That's despite late sowing and adverse weather, according to the National Bureau of Statistics of China. Per hectare yield rose 0.8%. Non-staple food supply stayed ample, with meat production from hogs, cattle, sheep, and poultry up 4.3% in the first half. The rural economy remained on a steady upward track, with total output value of farming, forestry, animal husbandry, and fishery rising 3.9% on year. Rural incomes continue to outpace urban ones, underscoring the sector's solid performance. Well, in Xinjiang's Shache County, a steady agricultural transformation is taking shape. Almonds are sparking interest online, melons are pre-sold before they're even picked, and marigolds are being transformed into high-value extracts, all thanks to smarter agriculture, live streaming e-commerce, and integrated supply chains. Now, as a result, rural incomes are rising, and a revitalization model is firmly taking root. Our reporter Wu Haojun has more.
It's peak harvest season, and the air is thick with the rustle of leaves and the hum of activity. Farmers are racing against the clock to bring in this year's crop of green-shelled almonds. Thanks to a digital revolution, they're in hot demand across the country.
This year, our almonds are bigger, plumper, and better quality than ever. They're our family's money tree, literally.
The real game changer is live streaming. At the cooperative sorting facility, workers grade each nut by size and color. Just a few meters away, employee is broadcasting live from the orchard itself.
Orders keep pouring in, 300 to 500 packages a day. Viewers from other provinces love the authentic, just-picked look.
Thanks to this dual-channel approach, offline bulk sales plus online live streaming, farmers no longer worry about finding buyers. Meanwhile, just 70 kilometers away, another harvest is reaching its sweet peak. Vast fields of glossy, sun-kissed melons stretch to the horizon. And this year, farmer bet big on 200 acres with 8 different varieties. It's paying off handsomely.
My income has climbed every single year. These melons, they're my sweet fortune. Life just keeps getting better.
With bricks levels hitting 19, on par with premium lychees, melons draw traders who book plots before they're even ripe. Local agronomists have refined the melon variety, boosting sweetness and resilience.
We're working with local authorities to expand specialty melon acreage, introduce better seeds, and improve cultivation techniques. And it's becoming a powerful engine for rural income growth.
But the most dazzling success is in its marigold fields. Over 6,700 hectares of golden blossoms ripple in the wind, each flower a tiny paycheck. Farmer MYT has already finished his first flush on just over 2 hectares, cash in hand at the village collection point.
We can harvest 6 to 7 times from June through October. Every time we get paid on the spot. It's steady, reliable income.
The magic lies in the chain. Tech Center's guide planting, a biotech group, runs collection points across every township, and the same company processes flowers into high-value extracts for dyes, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics.
We're deepening our contract farming model, expanding collection stations, and upgrading our local processing lines. The goal is simple: turn every flower into maximum value right here so farmers benefit at every link.
From almonds and melons to marigolds, local farmers have built a tech-driven agricultural ecosystem. This county embodies China's broader push for value-added agriculture and digital connectivity, a future that is green, golden, and sweet. And rural revitalization is not a catchphrase, but a harvest in full bloom.
吴浩君 CGTN。
And for more on China's agriculture and rural economy, I want to bring in Mr. Liu Zhiqin, a senior fellow at Renmin University's Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies. Mr. Liu, welcome to the program as always. So just to recap in terms of what we've seen in the first half of China's agriculture, we saw record summer grain output. We saw rural incomes growing faster than urban incomes and steady investment in the rural economy in the first half of the year. But I do wonder, Mr. Liu, we do see a lot of extreme weather events, of course, around the world and here in China as well. And these extreme weather events are becoming more frequent. Global food prices are also volatile. How confident are you that China can sustain this momentum when it comes to boosting its agriculture economy and its rural economy throughout the rest of the year?
I think in your question, you have already mainly answered your question, the problem, because I think it's quite easy to see why I and other people that have great confidence in the agricultural modernization in China, especially for this year and for the next 5 years development. The first point is that the confidence comes from the strength, the real strength we have, because as we know that in the past 3 or 4 decades, China has well developed its agricultural basement and development and also plan for the future. So it is very important because we have the real strength to deal with all different conditions of weather conditions and also especially some special pressure from external market. For instance, the other market want to mislead or navigate China's products, agriculture in different ways or in different pressures. But China has deal and resisted this very well with a good result. Secondly, it's very important that the confidence comes from our policy, because our central government has already put this rural modernization as always as the top priority. This is the safeguard and the lifeline for our modernization. But we always say that China's modernization is always based on the rural modernization. That's why the policy gives more supportive measures to support the agricultural production. This is the main reason that we have confidence for the future.
Right. Well, Mr. Liu, again, this record summer harvest comes despite the extreme weather conditions that we've seen here in China this summer. How are you seeing China using technology to raise yield without placing further pressure on land, water, and other agricultural resources?
Yes, this is true. Actually, this year and the last, I think China has met many challenges and uncertainty, especially during the extreme weather conditions, too hot, too cold, or windy, storm, and the different challenges always has the pressure on the agriculture product. Because in the history, China's agriculture is always dependent on the weather god. That is, say, weather god will say good weather today, then you will have good harvest. Nowadays, I think the technology help us to change this point, that the people can deal with the weather conditions in different technologies. As we know that we have a very solid warning system for storm, for bad weather or extreme weather. We have well prepared to deal with all these different challenges. And secondly, also we also proposed to have smarter agriculture, a green culture. So in this way, this green development in the agricultural production and including the smart agriculture modernization, they have to use digitalization and the modern science to develop, to monitor, to surveillance all these parts in China's development. Especially, we are also focusing on the land quality control and the management. That's also the basis and the priority for our this sustainable development in the agricultural industry.
Yeah, well, Mr. Liu, I'm glad you mentioned smart agriculture because last year, advances in agricultural science and technology accounted for more than 64% of growth when it comes to China's agricultural sector. So looking ahead, as China advances AI, we see embodied AI coming online as well, along with the next generation of information and communications technologies, such as 6G. What new possibilities do you see for the next stage of China's agricultural modernization, but also the revitalization of its rural areas?
I think, in my opinion, the information and the communication technology are the main point to stimulate, to protect our agricultural development. As we know, the agriculture development in the past, in the history, always depended on the other conditions. Nowadays, that the human and the people can monitor this development by ourselves with our technologies, AI and other high tech, especially in the agriculture, machinery buildings. They also can control and take part whole efforts to control this development, from seed protection, from fertilizer, from grain collection, even from the storage of the grain we had, in order to make our the food supply and always by our own hand. So this is a very essential and a principle. Of course, we see that the great achievement and the progress we have made in the science, especially, I have to say one thing is very special in China, is unique. That is, agriculture development is not one part of the whole development. It's a whole society's commitment and responsibility. That means the whole society will get united together to support agriculture. This is why we have unified market, unified technologies, unified policy to support the unified agriculture development. This is the basic law we have taken in the past years, and we hope that we continue this point to develop our agriculture and rural modernization.
Okay, Mr. Liu, many thanks for your thoughts as always. That was Mr. Liu Zhiqin, a senior fellow at Renmin University's Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies. Well, China is home to more than 2 million industrial robots, more than the rest of the world combined. Now, those robots are increasingly finding buyers overseas. In the first half of this year, China's industrial robot exports rose nearly 19% year-on-year to around $930 million. And Chinese-made industrial robots are now sold in 141 countries and regions. So why are more overseas customers choosing them? CGTN's Huang Fei explains.
Chinese-made industrial robots are becoming an increasingly common sight in factories around the world. Manufacturers are running around the clock to keep up with demand. From welding and sorting to heavy lifting, Chinese robots are taking on a growing range of industrial tasks. So what's driving their popularity? Price is one factor. By producing key components in-house, manufacturers say they're able to cut costs while maintaining performance and reliability.
Since all core components, including motors and drives, are developed in-house, our collaborative robots are 30 to 40% cheaper. Demand is rising across Europe, North America, and Southeast Asia.
But price alone doesn't explain the boom. Chinese companies are exporting complete automation solutions, from hardware and software to system integration. Years of experience in applying robotics across 70-plus industries have become an export of their own. And the service doesn't stop after delivery.
Since January, our export orders have increased by more than 30%. With our after-sales team based in Southeast Asia, we can respond quickly to our customers' needs.
And demand could be set to grow even faster. For the first time, bionic robots and cleaning robots have been given their own customs codes, a sign that these rapidly expanding categories are entering the global mainstream. At the same time, manufacturers worldwide are shifting towards smaller production runs, greater product variety, and smarter manufacturing. That's driving the demand for intelligent and adaptable robots, and many see humanoids as the next step. It may look like robot fight night, but think of it as a job interview. These robots can keep their balance, recover from falls, and keep operating even after taking a huge hit, like losing a head. Those are exactly the kinds of capabilities manufacturers are looking for, and many are already being tested in Chinese factories.
AI and embodied intelligence will allow robots to be deployed in many more real-world scenarios.
There are still challenges ahead, from advanced chips and high-end sensors to building stronger global service networks. The race is far from over, but China has already built a strong head start. Huang Fei, CGTN, Guangzhou.
Robots are certainly being deployed everywhere here in China, from factories to living rooms, but bringing lab innovations to the real world takes more than just technology. It also demands relentless training and vast data from actual environments. Our reporters recently visited Sichuan's Embodied Intelligence Robot Training Ground over in Mianyang, a one-of-a-kind boot camp for robots.
The Embodied Intelligence Robot Training Ground serves as a vital link connecting robotics technologies from laboratories to real-world applications, where robots receive systematic training in real-life or highly simulated scenarios. Biped and quadruped robots undergo training in running, jumping, navigating obstacles, and climbing slopes to steadily improve their motion control, balance, and environmental perception capabilities. Domestic service robots practice skills including clothing recognition, grasping objects, laundry work, and wiping tables. Inside full-scale replicated industrial production lines, robots accomplish tasks like scanning codes and labeling, tightening screws and cargo handling, and undergoing high-precision practical operational tests. Besides teaching robots locomotion and operational capabilities, the training base is also exploring ways to leverage large language models to boost intelligent agents' capabilities in perception, analysis, and decision-making.
Robots in the future will not necessarily be humanoid ones with limbs. By virtue of large models, we can turn various home appliances into intelligent robots that are interconnected and collaborative. They can identify people's needs based on household members' daily routines and living conditions, make independent decisions, and deliver targeted analysis and services accordingly.
Robots of diverse brands and configurations are undergoing simultaneous training inside the facility. To address heterogeneous data caused by differences in mechanical configurations, interfaces, and data protocols, the base realizes unified data collection, management, and reuse, enabling robots of various types to learn from each other and achieve coordinated advancement. Driven by practical training scenarios to accelerate technological application and industrial upgrading, Sichuan continues to optimize the robotics industrial ecosystem, facilitating more robots to move from training facilities to production lines and daily living environments.
And still to come here on Global Business. New U.S. tariffs targeting some 60 trading partners go into effect today as the Trump administration cites alleged forced labor practices.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
The United States has imposed tariffs of 10 to 12.5% on 60 trading partners, citing allegations of forced labor. The new measures took effect on Friday, coinciding with the expiration of a temporary 10% global tariff. The move is part of the Trump administration's efforts to restore its vision of near universal tariffs, following the Supreme Court's decision back in February to strike down broader duties of up to 50%. The new tariffs apply to nearly all U.S. imports, though certain products, including oil, gas, fertilizer, and food items, are exempt. A number of U.S. trade partners have voiced concerns over that announcement. New Zealand condemned those tariffs as extremely disappointing, while Brazil criticized the U.S. for using forced labor as a pretext for protectionist trade policies. Japan and Australia have also objected to the allegations regarding forced labor in their countries.
It is regrettable that this measure to impose tariffs on Japan on the grounds of non-existent enforced bans on goods produced by forced labor, despite the fact that Japan's industry and trade are in accordance with international rules.
We think, and we believe, the Albanese government believes that this imposition of higher tariffs on Australia is completely unjustified, and we will continue to lobby the United States Trade Representative to remove all tariffs on Australian goods.
All right, now let's get a closer look at the equity markets here on the Chinese mainland, over in Hong Kong and Tokyo. Tim Pope is standing by for us over in Shanghai. Tim, so Chinese mainland equities closing out lower on Friday, but overall ending the week higher amid continued tech sector volatility and global uncertainty. How are the markets looking?
Hi there, Michael. Yes, it was a volatile week for the Chinese mainland markets, particularly for technology stocks. We saw some very strong gains in the middle of the week, but today brought a bit of a reality check for AI and semiconductor shares. The Shanghai Composite Index fell 1.6% by the close today, although it still finished 1.3% above last Friday's close. The Shenzhen Component and the Chinext also fell sharply today, but remained higher over the week. By Tuesday, AI stocks were looking a bit oversold following last week's rout. We saw new Chinese model releases like Kimi K3 also causing a bit of a stir and restoring some longer-term confidence in the sector's viability. And in fact, demand for some of those models was strong enough for the developers to spend new subscriptions while they expand their computing capacity at the back end. But this week's trading also really illustrates the uncertainty surrounding the valuations of Chinese AI and semiconductor companies. Many of them are trading at really demanding multiples of their expected earnings. But technology, of course, remains the main engine of the current market rally. And that's creating quite a short cycle of news-driven gains, followed then very quickly by profit-taking. As investors continued taking those profits today, they were seeking relative shelter in banks and other financial stocks, as well as energy and utilities. But the rotation was limited. It really wasn't enough to lift those sectors into broad gains. We saw PetroChina, Agricultural Bank of China and ICBC, the three biggest positive contributors to the Shanghai Composite today, but their gains couldn't outweigh the losses elsewhere. Liquidity has also been a concern this week, despite the PBOC's efforts to provide some support. We saw the central bank add a net 100 billion yuan through one-year medium-term lending facility operations this week. But there's been some concerns arising elsewhere, because we had the memory chip manufacturer CXMT raising almost 58 billion yuan, $8.6 billion US dollars, in what is Asia's biggest IPO so far this year. And its shares are due to begin trading in Shanghai on Monday. And there are some concerns that investors could sell their other holdings to free up capital to chase that new listing, Michael.
Well, Tim, it wasn't just the Chinese mainland markets. Regional markets also taking a hit today. How did Hong Kong and Tokyo end the session?
Yeah, around the region we saw the markets also in retreat. The renewed war between the United States and Iran saw Brent crude prices touch $102 US a barrel today, adding to global inflation concerns. Investors have also reacted more cautiously to the AI investment strategies of some of the US tech giants following their earnings this week. Tesla and Alphabet, their earnings showed they're both burning through cash in their latest quarters as they sharply increase spending on AI infrastructure. And the question for the market is whether investments totaling hundreds of billions of dollars can generate returns quickly enough to justify their present valuations. So the Hang Seng ended about 1% lower today. Although, like the Chinese mainland markets, it still recovered some ground from last week's pretty bruising finish. Financials were among the few pockets of strength in Hong Kong on Friday, but we also had Chinese automaker Geely up almost 3%, following reports that it had reached a deal allowing it to manufacture electric SUVs at a Ford factory in Spain. And battery giant CATL slipped 0.7% ahead of the release of its latest earnings, which are expected any moment now. Tokyo was hit harder. The Nikkei 225 fell 2.7%. This combination of rising oil prices and concerns about AI spending is practically a nightmare scenario for the Japanese markets. The country, of course, is heavily dependent on imported energy, and its benchmark index is strongly influenced by a handful of heavyweight companies with enormous exposure to global tech sectors. Companies like Tokyo Electron, Advantest, they supply equipment to leading chip makers and data center operators in the US, while SoftBank is one of the world's biggest technology investors, and all three of those were major drags on the Nikkei today. SoftBank fell about 7%, Advantest 6%, Tokyo Electron 5%. Domestic demand shares, including railway operators, moved a little bit higher today, but again, they weren't enough to offset the losses. And there's another concern. The yen remains close to a 40-year low, keeping that threat of another currency intervention firmly in the background there. So despite finishing slightly higher over the week, the Nikkei remains firmly in correction territory and has lost almost 8% so far in July, Michael.
Okay, Tim, many thanks for that report, as always. Tim Pope for us in Shanghai. All right, turning now to U.S. equities, where S&P 500 futures were little changed as of Friday as investors weighed higher oil prices against a mixed earnings picture from U.S. tech giants. Intel, the latest mega cap to report, posting record quarterly revenue and profits that sent shares up 4% in extended trading on Thursday. The stock has surged more than 170% so far this year. In contrast, Tesla plunged some 14% on an earnings miss, while Google parent Alphabet fell 7% despite better revenue and earnings, as investors were spooked by Google's surging future spending commitments, which ballooned to $811 billion US dollars by the end of June, up from just $300 billion 3 months earlier. Well, even as Google parent Alphabet reported better than expected revenue and earnings, the European Union decided to fine the tech giant $1 billion for breaking rules designed to limit the power of big tech. Our William Denslow has more from Brussels.
This probe was launched back in 2024, and according to the European Commission, while Google has made more progress in complying with the Digital Markets Act, it says that this fine handed down to the tune of roughly $1 billion comes based on what they describe as the gravity of the alleged violation, as well as the duration of these infractions. Now, this fine and this violation, or perceived violation, is really broken down into a couple of different components. The first, so-called anti-steering. Essentially, the Commission alleges that Google didn't allow app developers to be able to provide customers through the Google Play Store other offers, other deals that might be available. Now, the other component is tied to the so-called preferential treatment. Essentially, if you're going onto a search engine, you're seeing Google-linked searches for things like apparel, things like flights, things like train bookings, not giving fair competition for other providers. So the message is clear from the Commission. They say that anyone can do business here in Europe. They're not seeking to put up barriers, but the takeaway for the Commission is that anyone, wherever you may be located, have to play by the rules.
Right. In other headlines we are tracking at this hour, Eurozone consumer confidence improved to minus 15.9 in July, rising 1.8 percentage points from the previous month. That's according to a report from the European Commission. Despite 3 consecutive months of gains, the indicator does still remain below its long-term average, suggesting that consumer sentiment has yet to fully recover. Brent crude eased to around $93 a barrel Friday, retreating from the $100 level hit earlier this week. Still, mounting fears over a widening Strait of Hormuz conflict keep large supply volumes at risk, leaving the market bracing for more volatility. And India's private sector growth slumped to its weakest level in over 4 years in July, with the flash composite PMI sliding 2.8 points to 54.3, dragged down by a sharp slowdown in the services sector. And up next here on Global Business. Airports here in Beijing roll out a fully digital tax refund system to speed up shopping reimbursements for overseas visitors.
A vast land of 1.4 billion people. The world's second largest economy. Home to stories of the unexpected, the unimaginable, the breathtaking. Stories that touch the soul. Feel the speed, the passion. Enjoy spectacular natural and cultural landscapes. Feel the thrill of cutting-edge innovations. Discovering China. Global Biz. China Travel. We present a China never seen before. 24/7 at your fingertips.
Well, since July, an upgraded nationwide departure tax refund policy here in China took effect. The policy aims to make shopping easier for foreign visitors and converting rising inbound tourism into a new driver of domestic consumption. Our Wu Qiong has more.
Digitalization is at the heart of the new procedure. At Beijing Daxing International Airport, customs officers now handle all document verification electronically, eliminating paper forms entirely. By scanning a traveler's passport or the QR code on their refund application, the entire process is paperless.
The tax-free and the all-consuming process was very easy. It was very heartwarming. I paid with 2 shops. Maybe 200, and tax refund will be 9%, and it's really great.
To further cut waiting times, Daxing Airport Customs has introduced self-service smart verification kiosks. Travelers can skip the line and complete their refund checks at these terminals in just a few minutes.
The system randomly selects 10% of goods valued under 10,000 yuan for inspection. For items over that amount, customs examines each one individually. If a traveler's purchases are not selected for inspection, they can simply use the self-service machine. Just enter their passport information or scan the QR code, and the system will generate the required refund documents without a trip to the customs counter.
The Ministry of Commerce has announced further plans to optimize the departure tax refund process, including improved payment options, enhanced multilingual signage, and a more welcoming retail environment for global visitors. In partnership with the Ministry of Finance, it has also allocated 2 billion yuan to support 15 pilot cities in building international-friendly consumer ecosystems. Wu Qiong, CGTN, Beijing.
And China remains a top travel destination for international visitors. In the first half of the year, the country recorded nearly 23 million foreign arrivals, up 20.4% year-on-year. Visa-free entries topped 17.8 million, soaring over 30% from a year earlier and accounting for 78% of all foreign arrivals. The Republic of Korea, Russia, and Malaysia were the top 3 source countries. Currently, China offers unilateral visa-free access to nationals of 50 countries. In addition, travelers from 55 countries can take advantage of the 240-hour visa-free transit policy through 65 designated ports nationwide. For more on China's inbound tourism, I want to bring in Du Jiayi, a research fellow at the Shanghai University of International Business and Economics. Jiayi, welcome to the program. So, China, of course, recently seeing this surge in inbound tourism, helped by measures such as its expanded visa-free entry policy. Tell us more about what else is driving increasing interest in traveling to China.
And the first thing I'd point to is convenience. China has made traveling here remarkably smooth. International visitors can now link their Visa or MasterCard directly to Alipay or WeChat Pay. The tax refund system has been made just as easy. The minimum spend is low. The paperwork is digital. High-speed rail connects almost every major destination. So a visitor can have breakfast in Shanghai, spend the afternoon in Hangzhou, and be in Suzhou by evening, all on one app, with a ticket on their phone. Another big reason is by variety. China simply has more to offer than one trip can hold. People post their first ride on a high-speed train, their first time seeing a robot serve coffee, the price of a full meal in Chengdu. They are buying drones, phones, electronic scooters, designer toys. That's a real change in how China is imagined abroad. That's why visitors are not only coming, but staying longer and going farther.
Yeah. Well, Jiayi, you listed out many elements of traveling here in China just now. What aspects of the visitor experience tend to surprise first-time international travelers the most when they come to China?
I would say that almost everything surprises them, but the 3 things come up again and again. The first is how easy it is to move around. High-speed trains leave every few minutes and arrive on time. Stations feel more like airports. Cities are covered by metro systems that are clean, cheap, and easy to navigate in English. The second is food, and how regional it turns out to be. They discover that Sichuan and Guangdong taste nothing alike, that Xi'an has its own bread and noodles, that Yunnan has mushrooms you've never seen, and breakfast in Wuhan is a whole culture on its own. The third, and I think the biggest one, is safety. This is the thing visitors mention most. They walk back to their hotel at midnight and feel completely comfortable. They leave a phone on a cafe table and it's still there. The country turns out to be far more modern, far more affluent, and far more relaxed than the picture visitors carried with them.
Yeah. And Jiayi, of course, travel is often described as one of the most powerful forms of cultural exchange. So as more international visitors come to China, tell us what you think about the role tourism can play in fostering even greater understanding between China and the world?
Tourism replaces images with people. When visitors actually come here, the country stops being a concept and become a taxi driver who tells you the local heritage, a grandmother teaching you how to hold chopsticks. Those encounters are small and completely unremarkable, but that's exactly why they work. We can also see that the understanding flows in both directions. We talk about visitors learning about China, but the Chinese people are meeting the world too. The shopkeeper in a small town now has customers from Brazil. The teenagers strikes up a conversation with a family from Norway. The restaurant starts printing menus in Spanish. And that's really what makes travel so valuable. Every visitor who comes here goes home with something that can never be summarized in a headline.
Okay, Jia, many thanks for your thoughts as always. That's Du Jia, Research Fellow at the Shanghai University of International Business and Economics. Well, in central China's Hubei province, an old factory building that sat vacant for more than a decade has been given a new lease on life. Following renovation, the former industrial site in Kangning is now a popular gathering place for the community's elderly.
As evening falls, the once abandoned factory is bustling with activity. Inside the tea house, residents sit together chatting over cups of tea, while the community canteen serves steaming small plate dishes and traditional steamed meals.
This old factory had been left unused for more than 10 years. Around June or July last year, we worked with the community to launch this public service tea house project.
The transformation was inspired by the real needs of local residents. Kangning community has a relatively large elderly population, many of whom face challenges preparing meals and lack convenient indoor spaces for socializing and recreation.
During the day, we can come here for tea and meals. In the evening, the elderly can watch movies or enjoy performances. It really serves multiple purposes at once.
The renovation combines the preservation of industrial heritage with community services designed to improve daily life. Zhang Mengyuan, CGTN.
And that's going to wrap up this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Coming up next is The World Today with Wang Mama.